Yeah, I wanted to ask you about rivalries. So you were part of one of maybe the preeminent rivalry, and I would venture to say that from from an individual race standpoint, you swam in the most iconic Olympic race of all time. Part of the magic of that was the rivalry that existed between you and Michael. What do you think? First of all, I mean, one of the things that's so compelling about that is that rivalries don't really exist in swimming all that much. And we've got a few here today, but are there any that stand out today? And do you think that that's really good for the sport?
One thing that swimming is lacking in is people verbalizing what they truly think and what they really like. One of the things that I just hate about watching the U.S. Olympic trials is seeing these guys, qualify for the team and then post race going to talk to the reporter and then being, I'm so happy I'm going to do the Olympics with this guy. When the truth is, that guy or those two guys just hate each other.
Uh-huh.
They're hugging it out, and that's just kind of one of the things that drives me nuts about USA Swimming is they literally pressure everybody. It's like, well, you know what, we're a team. Yeah, of course we're a team, but you know what? I don't like that guy. I'm not gonna hug it out with him and say I love that I'm gonna go share a room with that guy.
Yeah.
Like, no, no, right? So you don't hear a lot of how people feel, and that's something that boxing and MMA in track and field is ahead of swimming in. And one thing that they understand that USA swimming or just in general swimming it feels is behind and is the power of that rivalry, the power of the story, and even the power of what it's going to do to your performance if you take on that rivalry. I mean, training with George Bovell and other guys, at workouts, we would bet. At the end of workout, we would hop up on the block and be like, you know what, I'm gonna whoop you in this, and when I do, you're gonna buy me lunch. You know, and it's simple things, but you would do it not because you wanted the free lunch or not because you wanted to dunk on that guy. You would do it because you verbalized it, everyone else heard it, and now you got to step up to the plate and do it. And as a result, your performance, no matter how tired you are, you don't want to be that chump. You're gonna step up and you're gonna produce just because you don't want to be that guy that talked all that talk and couldn't walk the walk. So again, rivalries, they're really really important, and with Sun Yang, you know you and with the situation with Sun Yang and the rivalries, and that he's kind of dealing with. I think that it's really really important for the benefit of our sport that these stories are coming up, that you see these polarizing personalities with people that really don't mind or don't mind being the villain. Now for me, on this market, I was painted as that villain with the top hat and that mustache that pointed up. But and I don't blame NBC or anybody else doing that, just because it's great TV. And a lot of people out there, they don't like me just because they remember me being the villain. But and at the same time, like it's just kind of a necessary thing. But if you just kind of get to know people,
Yeah.
I would always prefer to be in the company of somebody that said what they thought than somebody who was suppressing their thoughts or their opinions on someone else. I mean, the truth is you're either going to like me or you're not. And if you're not going to like me, it's gonna be because I'm going to say something that that you're not necessarily going to agree with for X, Y, Z reasons. But at least you're going to know what time it is with me, and that's who I am. And it really bothers me when I run into people that have that wall, and really, and forgive me for swearing, but just they're just full of shit. Like, stop, stop.
No, I think that's crucial. And I was working with Sun Yang, and I was in Australia and China, working with him through 2017, and I got to know him personally. And it's very interesting to hear your perspective about being the person that people are against, because, like I said, he's the main person nowadays. So I'd love to know your views about current podium and award ceremony protesting and things like that, and what your whole perspective is on that.
You know, the Olympic Games. If we're going to talk about the Olympics or the World Championships, so let's kind of focus on the Olympics. The Olympic Games is a celebration of humanity and to show how far mankind has come. In the meantime, as years have progressed, they kind of turn it into this tool of propaganda. How many medals has Russia won? How many has China won in the U.S.? And who's the better country? And they use that to kind of promote their own agendas. And I get the value of that. It, when you ask me about the podium, I'm coming from a different perspective, and that somebody abused that. I stood up on the podium 12 years ago when I talked. I wore a shirt that was a political shirt. In support of my country and my people who with a great injustice who lost one of the most important regions of our history, of our people. It is the heart of Serbia, Kosovo. And really at that time, again, I was 24 years old when I did that. At the time when I did that, I hadn't had the clue of the ramifications of doing such a thing. People don't people look at a political protest and they think, okay, he's protesting this and that. But when you literally, I knew when I put that shirt on that the whole world was going to see it. And I knew, like, I literally bought that shirt weeks before, knowing that I was going to whoop everyone's butt, and then I was going to put it on and then show everybody, look at me, I'm first place, and this is the shirt I'm wearing. This is what I believe. What I didn't realize, and I was told the reason why I was kicked out of the meet and sent out of the country within 24 hours when that happened. But it wasn't until years later that I recognized the danger of such a thing. There's a lot of militant people out there that feel much differently than you feel. And what I had inherently done, which wasn't fair of me, and I was too young to understand or too stupid to understand, was that I inherently endangered the lives of everybody at that pool, at that facility, at that meet. In swimming, there are no metal detectors. There is nothing preventing somebody from hopping over a barrier from the stands and finding himself in the pool, or from the stands shooting, at swimmers in the pool or on deck, or when I walk by in the entrance to the pool, sticking me with a knife. So for me, I look back in that moment, and I know I did it for the right reason, but it wasn't the right place or time or platform for it. And when I look back at that, I would have done it differently. That was not the place and time. I look at all my friends at that pool, and I'm ashamed to say that I had put their lives in danger. And again, from people that come from well-developed countries, and like this, that United States, like the United States does not know the kinds of problems that people in the world deal with. I went to Luke's home country, and everybody had a gun on them. I was walking through the jungle with George, and we went down to the beach, and this guy had a huge machete, and he was coming at us. And if it wasn't with George also having a machete and telling him to stay cool and to get away, like, there are dangerous people out there, but also, they keep talking about, if there is a World War III, it'll be an ideological war. Well, people out there are willing to die for their beliefs. And if you're willing to die for your beliefs, endanger yourself and only yourself, but not everyone around you. And that was my big regret and about protesting politically on the podium. I do not recommend it. I hope not to see it in the future. But as far as any other protests, such as is the one against Sun Yang for for the doping. I mean, that's something that I would have done. That's something that I would have done, knowing myself. For me, respect is everything. If I believe somebody is doping, and throughout my years there have been a lot of people that I suspected were doping, I would not share the same. I would not share the same platform as them. I'd beat them, and I do whatever I can to not give them the respect of standing and receiving a medal amongst myself and among my peers. I've got a much more draconian approach to doping, and yeah, I do in some way support that kind of protest, but all other political protests, please stay away from that.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting perspective just because, like we said, there's so many different elements involved in this whole thing.